this is the smartest talk, and these are wonderful pictures of Gary's Winogrand's, and this is the smartest talking I've ever heard.
How did your pictures?
So I said, I'm mailing them to John because I want somebody like John to judge them. I mean, I was still fairly young.
That was really offensive to A.D. Coleman, right?
Thank God for A.D. Coleman, though. We wouldn't have our first entry in the quotation sections of my bio. Yours truly, really truly, honest and truly.
Where do you stack? Where do you stack up against Winogrand? Pound for pound pictures. How do you like? What's your sense of your own work compared to other picture takers' work?
Well,
in a death match, can you think of it like that?
I mean, Gary is, in a way, is like the Jackson Pollock of photography.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know very much about it. I'm a layman.
I mean, some people will, what the heck, go back before Gary, before Pollock, and they'll look at, Cartier-Bresson or Kertész.
What was the quality? What was the quality of his work?
Look, I never had a problem with myself stacked up against others. It did not occur to me that was a problem because it was apples and oranges. I never felt like I was competing with or doing what they did. Of course there were similarities at different times with different photographers. I mean, for somebody who's young and starting to take pictures and you're looking around and you're still looking at books and stuff. I saw a few shows. I knew what they had. I knew what other people liked. I knew what John liked, and I knew what Bill Burback liked. I knew what Lee and Gary and people who became friends of mine later, Lee and Gary and Todd Papageorge, Tom Consilvio, Hank Wessel.
Lee Friedlander?
Yeah. I mean, we've stayed friends all the time. Diane died in the summer after I was with her. She committed suicide, a month or two after I was in her 1 week workshop.
The workshop?
It was intense.
Oh, that was only a year later?
No, it was the same summer.
It was the same summer?
Yeah. So, anyway, I knew her intensely for a week because we spent time outside of the class time in the afternoon. And anyway, that was intense. And Lee was the other person. Well, Lee and I became friends immediately because we drank wine at night and sat out there and people were taking their clothes off and who gives a shit. So Lee and I, we had a good time, and then Lee knew Hank, and then Todd and Gary, of course, were inseparable in New York City, and then Tom became inseparable as Gary's printer.
Sounds like you guys were fucking enlightened. Who in that crew, who was the biggest personality outside of the art stuff? Just who captured the room? Well, out of all those people you named.
Well, I wasn't in a situation where they weren't room capturers.
No,
those guys.
So it was you. It was you.
I'm telling you.
It was you.
It was me.
Right?
I'm not a room capturer.
Yeah, you are. You take over a room. I mean, look at you. You're owning the camera right now. No problem. Right?
I'm not a room capturer. I like to listen to people. I don't think I'm that smart. I'm not a academically smart person. I have a terrible memory for shit. It's disgusting. But in any case,
well, not in any case. On that note, a lot of smart people have loved your work, right, through the years.
Yeah.
Really smart people, and also everyone else, and also people, definitely people have hated it or been indifferent, like anything, but you went through. You had a flurry of shows. You had I had grants. You had grants.
Because
you had
of John.
Guggenheims, two NAs, RIP.
Turned out, I found out John was the king.
Right, so a gatekeeper let you in, right? A tastemaker made you the taste.
Yeah, and didn't have any luck promoting me.
Didn't have any luck.
Eggleston did okay.
You've been in big galleries. You've had big shows.
Yeah.
You're in. I mean,
I think that's mostly because John.
But there's
John
there's a
was
flurry.
behind
There's
me.
a flurry of shit, right? Like for relatively decades. I mean, there was
10
probably
years,
some.
yeah.
But even into the '90s, you're represented by Frankel. When was your SF MoMA show? Was
That's Jeff
'99?
about selling my picture.
Did you get into all those permanent collections that I programmed into your website, or did those all go in after Sarkovsky said it's okay to have Bill Dane in your permanent collections? Or did anybody at those fucking museums
What am
look
I
at it and
supposed to
like it?
say?
Did people like
I
it on
have
their?
no idea.
Did people like it on their own? Or is it just John?
My friends liked it
Johnny
because
S.
I mailed them postcards, and they thought that was nice, and a lot of them were in the art thing.
Well, okay, Doug Nickel. Doug Nickel from Photo Wings. He wrote a thing in Photo Wings. I
Yeah.
think it was him
He
that
was
said
a
the world
latecomer.
that said the world's wasn't ready for Bill.
Yeah.
What do you agree
He
with
was
that?
a latecomer.
Do you agree
Do I
with the
agree
assessment?
with that?
Yeah,
I'd have to think about what that actually means.
I know. I want you to think about it because that's an interest. It's an interest. I mean, it could be.
I'd have to
a
talk to you for
grandiose-
5 or 10 minutes in order to understand what that might mean.
Oh, please. You've got a handle on it. I mean, what do you think? Do you think?
Okay, I know what I think. You want the answer to that question?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Sure. The answer is when I started photographing was, let's say it was 1970. When I started photographing consciously, 71. At 69 I was doing it. I knew that this was a medium. But you have to remember, there weren't even degrees or darkrooms in colleges and universities at that time. Okay? Here's a small group of people dealing with a small group of historical people, because photography is so new. A small group of people being compared so that Diane and Gary and Lee could be thought of as being the hottest photographers in the world at that time in New York City.
Right.
By MoMA, Museum of Modern Art Director of Photography.
Big time.
Big king. And we'd had our Cartiers and our Cartier-Bressons, and everybody I know validates their photographs. And I'm talking about the historical people that are good. Well, there's other people at the same time in the 70s who were photographing that were friends of A.D. Coleman, who didn't get a show at the museum. And I completely sympathize with that attitude and that position, because this is a really interesting, as all art has always been, who decides what is good and what isn't. So when you say, was I ahead of my time or not,
Stuck out
the
of
real
time.
answer that I meant to give you, in my opinion, is that there was an explosion of photography after that. An explosion in the colleges and universities of degrees and advanced degrees, and people taking it seriously, and just Kodak to Instamatics to point and shoots to whoa. And so how could I possibly be ahead of my time? Nobody will ever know the answer to that, because the time of photography is exponential in terms of all its ingredients. Now, there are galleries that are still considered to be validators, chief validators, Frankel and, I don't know, Zander and Cologne and whoever else you like in New York, where friends of mine are showing. I'm not, but my friends, the Hank, the Todd Papa George, the Lee, of course, because Lee was right there with Gary doing enough of a different kind of thing to distinguish himself amazingly at the time. And both of those guys were workaholics. They were doing it all the time. Well, part of my doing it all the time is homework, is looking at pictures, because I don't I'm not, those guys were they were athletes. They were hand-eye coordination photographers when they had to be. So I'm a plotter. I'm a go along like Versailles or, I mean, I'm a decisive moment person, but it's on my terms.
Right.
What the decisive moment is. Anyway.
Let me break
So does that make sense for you?
No,
Like,
that was
whether I'm ahead of my time
it
or
doesn't
not,
matter.
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to you. I still think
Doesn't matter to
it's
anybody.
interesting in some sort of like reverse engineer
Okay,
a
here's the
career
other
kind
answer.
of way.
Here's the other answer. I was behind my times for the 70s pictures, the black and whites and stuff. In a way, I was myself.
Oh, so you agreed with A.D. Coleman's assessment?
I was we were talking about Doug Nichols'
You didn't even know enough about
it wasn't
photography.
ready for me.
You didn't even know enough about photography to make
No.
your lack of knowledge an aesthetic choice, or something like that. What did he say?
Right.
He just tore you down.
Something like
Sorry,
that,
but
yeah.
say what you're saying.
My craft was so piss poor.
Yeah.
I couldn't even make a choice one way or another, good or bad. But anyway, it's completely, I was on purpose not thinking about that because of my whole anti-masterpiece,
John-
anti-institutional thing.
To break the fourth wall for 1 second before I ask a question about
I'm
the
sorry,
pictures
but
John
God, I hope I remember.
picked for your MoMA show in '73.
I was behind. I was equal
to
with
break-
my times, and then
How many
I
of these-
did get ahead of my time.
Okay,
Yes.
well, yeah. So
Yeah, and the work that's important to me,
Yeah.
I got ahead of my time.
you
In some kind of sense, of institutional sense, world view sense of decision makers, galleries, museums, and stuff.
John.
But I'm right where I belong, right up. Where are we? 2017.
You believe in
I'm
fate?
doing exactly.
Yeah, you're right where you
I've
belong.
always evolved.
Hey, Bill.
So-
talk to me.
That's the answer.
Breaking the fourth wall. Did you already answer every one of these questions in your your lengthy interviews with Don, with Mark,
Blake
with
Andrews.
Blake? Yeah. Am I just hitting
No,
every
this
little
is-
touch point that
this
they
is-
hit? Touchstone?
Nope. Sorry.
We'll edit that out.
No, this is. Well, it's contemporary. It's right now.
So I want to talk
And
about.
you have a way of asking the questions, which I've always known that you always have you and Monet always have the comments and the questions about what I'm doing.
Well, hold on. Wait.
Nobody else does.
Well, is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, it seems like
Yes.
the interview I
it's
read
true.
in Bill Dane Thatcher Lager wrote, and that the interview that Blake handled.
I did the interview.
And
I made
the
the interview.
45-hour interview with Don.
It was.
And I listened. I read almost all of it and listened to almost all of it.
It was 29
you can
hours of
hear it.
recorded shit.
I know,
We had
right?
to edit.
Like you can hear in their questions that they're understanding
Oh, good.
it in a way that seems to get at
I wanted
who
to
you
crawl
are,
under, the
as an artist.
outsider rock again.
So check it out.
Because-
What I wanted to know,
But I'm not.
Lil Billy, is so John puts up the backsides of your postcards. Did you talk about this with your guys with the other interviews with Elliot?
I don't know.
John puts up the backsides of your postcards, some of them, in the '73 show.
Right.
So, he talked about it, or I've seen a quote somewhere about it, like he's presenting you maybe not more than your photographs, but the picture postcards, but in concurrence with.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get that sense?
That they completed the experience?
That
or-
it completed, that it was like, you're not just looking at these kind of, to me, those pictures, the postcards, the old ones that were in MoMA, look like death. There's a coldness and just this very straight, like,
It was Vietnam.
clinical,
Vietnam and the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah, right. And there's a lot of it in there that's just like this stark, like it's almost as though they purposely didn't want to elicit emotion. Like John wrote that they what was it that they something about they captured the lyric beauty of Oakland and God's own junkyard. And to like when I look at him, I am going, oh fucking hell, because you actually a lot of those photographs are of beautiful things that you make look dead, and there was like a lack of beauty in them. But anyway, that's a comment.
I always thought of it as being a kind of dark humor,
right?
But not making fun of the stuff.
Right.
That was not ever an intention of mine. But anyway, that goes to.
So he puts the back of the postcards, and you write with a. I don't know. I don't read a lot, so I'm sure you write like some. Do you write? Where do you get your punchy writing from? You do it up to this day. I read those postcards from '73, and I get your emails, and a lot of other people do too that will hopefully watch this, who want to know what why your writing style is like it is.
Well, the only
do you think about that?
The only poetry I could deal with was haiku and E.E. Cummings, probably.
Well, that explains everything.
The sort of concrete guys, you know.
Is it haiku? Do you consider it a form of...
No, I don't consciously think of that. But as a form and as a brief way look, let's put it this way. I spend a lot of time on my writing, on writing what I write, and I'm pretty naive, so a lot of it comes out and has that flavor to it, which I'm okay with because that's what comes out. But the other thing is I want to say something in a different way, just like
Why?
I want to photograph.
Why?
Because I don't want to do something that's already been done. I don't think any photographer does.
So I also find
the art person.
On that note, yeah, you're right.
I don't want to
totally
duplicate an experience that I've already had someplace else with somebody else's or my own.
Right. Any artist being fucking serious totally agrees with you. Any artist not being serious is fine replicating and duplicating. So I totally get that. But what I find
major
interesting
powers
is that,
in the lo-fi symphony.
Nope.
It arranges and composes all of it.
So stop it.
The guys together are what a team.
So I find something fascinating, and I think this ties back into John, or I'd like it to, John showing the backsides of your postcards, showing the hot dog whoopee howl or whatever you wrote. You know, I'm on the road with Kerouac, and just these little one-off kind of humorous but needly, and I found that also in the photograph. When you flip the card back over and you stop reading what you're saying and you flip the card back over, there is a dark humor that can be considered sort of needling or aggressive or beaky or something. And
interesting.
And I think to this day you write like that, and I think your photography has ramped up in that in my personal emotional reaction to it. It seems aggressive. I think the collisions you do, and I mean, it's taken another turn now. It's not as collision-y as it was just in 2006 or 7 or so when we started, when we put you on the internet. You've made another evolution that I am not even thinking about yet. I'm still thinking about the image collisions in the storefront, which you still do. Some of the storefront window stuff where you're catching reflections in yourself, and that's all slammed together.
I actually like actual collisions too.
Right, but it seems antagonistic.
It
seems antagonistic, and sort of like part of what I thought that A.D. Coleman didn't intend to say even back then. And he, obviously, that guy probably has never seen any of your new stuff, or maybe he has. I don't know.
Neither is Jeff.
But there is to the haughty, photography, specialist out there. There is like an antagonism and like fucking throwing out whatever the word is. When something's traditional. Let's just say traditions. Just throwing out basic traditions and just going for this in-your-face thing.
Yeah.
And so there's an antagonism in the writing.
In your face.
There's an antagonism and an in-your-faceness in the pictures themselves, do you think that